I guess we can.
We should have done that. Why did you do that?
We're not supposed to do that.
We joke about it. Actually, that act, which is probably dating from the Middle Ages of showing you were disarmed by expressing your hand, that's going to go away.
Really?
Yeah, maybe fist bumps, elbows probably wiser, maybe a little namaste, but the handshake's got to go away.
All right, so let's talk about that. The coronavirus, what do we actually need to know? What does the average person need to know?
It is not as deadly as initially feared. Part of the reason that those numbers were overblown was because there were hospitals that were completely infested with the virus, with people in the ICU devastatingly ill already who couldn't weather the storm of the virus. So those numbers, when they look at mortality rates outside of Wuhan province in China, are actually about 2 per 1,000 people dying. That's twice what the regular old seasonal flu is. So that's probably the headline. It is. We all have deep in our psyche a fear that our species will be wiped out by an infection. And all the experts actually feared that mode of extinction more than any other. I get it, but this virus is not it. Now, what is the problem? It's incredibly contagious. I mean, big time. Just give you some numbers. If I have the coronavirus, I will infect 45 people in a week. If I have the regular flu, I'll infect maybe 9, 10 people. So with that much more infectivity, it's going to become an endemic virus. I've spoken to all the leaders at the NIH and CDC and the famous virus hunter Ian Lipkin. The same story. It's going to be endemic, always present in our population, like the seasonal flu. It's not going away. So we're going to have to get comfortable with it. But in the meantime, there's some growing pain. And the panic you see in the stock market and businesses and families and schools being worried are reflective of that.
And part of the reason you say that it is so contagious is that it lives longer on surfaces than the regular flu.
A lot of people think you get the flu because someone coughs in your face. I wish it was that simple. And yes, if someone coughs, it's a problem because the droplets travel 90 miles an hour. You can't get out of the way. But the real ways these viruses travel is you touch your face and you're sick, and you touch a surface or you cough on a surface. The virus, the regular old seasonal flu virus, lives about 2 days on that surface. But the coronavirus appears to live for 7 to 9 days. So how can you predict who touched that arm rail or hand rest that you're touching right now 9 days ago? So you've got to be especially vigilant because we take our fingers and touch our face about 3,000 times a day. So you're going to contaminate yourself if your fingers pick up the virus.
So the number one thing that everybody is asking, how do I keep myself from getting this virus?
So the masks are not worth doing right now. Let me clear up that issue. And you can't get the true masks that work, the N95s anyway. There are none left that I could find. And the few that are out there aren't enough for all of us. The regular surgical masks, the ones that I wear in the operating room, they don't work. They're designed to help prevent me from contaminating you, not to help me. So forget about all that. Here's what works. Hand washing, but only 5% of us wash our hands 20 seconds. You really have to wash your hands. So number 2 is sleep. It helps your innate immune system recover. And it's probably the best way to deal with an infection if you have it. And the third benefit away is daily physical activity, because exercise seems to rev up the immune system so you're better able to protect yourself. The vast majority of people who have this virus probably won't know they have it. So, in China, they appear to have a little sore throat, some intestinal problems maybe. They don't know they had a coronavirus because they're expecting some devastating illness deep in your lungs with a pneumonia. That's not what happens to the vast majority of people.
So how do you know that you have it? And if you do have it, what do you do to get better?
You're going to get better by yourself almost always. 1 in 1,000, 2 in 1,000, you're wrong, but most supposed to get better. The symptoms are going to be generally subtle upper respiratory tract illnesses. The virus, it's a coronavirus by name, but that specifically means it's the sore throat family of viruses. So you'll get a sore throat. It'll sometimes dive down into your lungs. We know about 10% of the time it's only the intestinal systems. But the biggest and most concerning issue, and that's why this virus is a concern for public health officials, is you won't have any symptoms when you're contagious. So early on, you won't realize you're sick. You'll infect people in your school, your home, etc. So we have to expect we'll get it. We'll have to believe that until we have a vaccine, and I want to speak about that in 1 second, we're all at risk, but the vast majority of us will not have a life-threatening problem. Now, vaccines. The beautiful part about being alive in 2020 is we're really smart about this. We already have sequenced this virus. It is not a man-made, weaponized virus. Let's debunk that. This is, by all the experts' opinions, it's been sequenced now. This is some horrible quirk of nature, but it also means we can target it. So there are 20 different vaccines that have already been out there being developed. The first ones are now being put into clinical trials. We got to make sure it's safe, because if you're going to give 100 million people a shot, you want to make sure it's the right shot and it really doesn't cause side effects. So we believe in 12 to 18 months we'll have an effective vaccine. In the meantime, the summer we got a little break because the virus does not like the warm weather, but next winter it's going to come back and hit us hard.
So we see, like in Japan, they're basically canceling school. What do you say about kids and people that are concerned about sending their kids to school?
I don't know what the end point is. It's not like the virus is going to go away in a month. When do you reopen the schools? What's the strategy? And when you try to quarantine a population, you slow the process. I mean, the Chinese did us a favor by isolating 50 million people, but you cause a panic in that area, and overwhelmed hospitals can't deal with sick people. I think we're better off saying in the modern era, we have supportive care to keep you alive, live your life, do business, travel, do what's important. Don't sacrifice your life. We should not be a society that makes decisions based on fear. That's true for politics. It's true in medicine.
Well, this is a political show. This week, the president appointed Mike Pence to lead the federal response, the vice president. If you're the vice president or you're an advisor to the vice president, what should he do? What should be the response of this country?
Well, you want fair, honest, and sometimes brutal assessment of what's going on. We don't have enough testing kits right now. If this case in UC Davis turns out to not have had any true exposure to China or someone came from China, that's concerning because everybody who comes to an emergency room in California is going to have to be concerned about having coronavirus, and you can't have them in the hospital with sick people next door who could die. So it changes how we treat everything. That's a real problem. A non-true problem is we're panicked, we shut everything down, we're all going to die from this virus. So Mike Pence was very good at leading. He led a state, was pretty accomplished at it, is going to be clear and dogmatic in what he argues. We have to pour a fair amount of money into testing so we can isolate people early on, isolate them from people who are really going to die if they get the virus. Other than that, we got to live our lives. We cannot see the stock market plunging in panic over these issues because there's no endpoint to that. Is the world economy worth that much less because of the coronavirus? I mean, ask yourself, is that really possible? If you're a political leader, that's the real question you've got to give us opinions on. And right now, a little level-headed fairness, balanced concept would be really nice.
I mean, you see in Europe, they're now doing soccer games without any crowds. I mean, what do you make of that?
You're making a strategy based in fear. You're not going to prevent the virus from affecting the city. You might slow it down. And maybe you say that's good enough for me, but we're not any better at treating this virus next week than we are this week. So I'd say be smart about it. Be thoughtful about what you do in your life. Do all the things we've been talking about to prevent yourself from having a bad reaction if you get the virus. But I certainly don't want to give up my life for months, probably a year and a half even, until we have true vaccines widely available, because I'm fearful about a virus that has twice the mortality of the flu. My goodness, we have a vaccine for the flu that reduces the chance this year of that flu hitting you hard by 50%, and people aren't getting it. Help me understand how a rational mind would ignore a proven treatment for a disease that's going to kill 50,000 Americans, and yet is panicked over one that at worst might kill 100,000.
So your bottom line, it sounds like, is don't completely panic over this.
I would live your life, do the wise things, and if you're an investor, I'd really think about getting back in it. If you're a political leader, your main story is not to underplay this, but to say we're better than panicking. We're better than that.
And speaking of living your life, I just got to give you a shout out because we always like to have fun on this show. I saw you in a push-up contest with Mark Wahlberg.
Gosh.
What was that like, and what prompted you to actually do that?
It was a brief period of psychosis, I guess. You know what happened? So I did a really big show to launch a campaign that everyone should give up breakfast. Breakfast is a marketing campaign. You don't have to have breakfast. And if you have breakfast foods in your pantry, eat them later in the morning. You should intermittent fast. Eat your dinner by 7, have your breakfast at 11. That way you get 14, 16 hours of your body not having been forced to digest food. Mark Wahlberg called me a fool, said we had a beef, said I needed a defibrillator, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. So we finally agreed to have a showdown. Of course, he got medical clearance. And he had a big breakfast yesterday. I intermittent fasted, and so we need to do a bunch of things. The push-ups were the warm-up. The real workout was his F45 gym, which I got to say, he's just a sweetheart. He helped me through it. He's a wonderful person, and I'm proud. The healthiest thing we do is to do things together, and that was a wonderful event yesterday.
Yeah, well, you looked very strong.
I don't know about that. I was weakling compared to him. Plus, I have too much body hair. He was saying if I could trim the body hair, I might actually look like he does.
Thank you for that image. Let's leave on that.
Exactly. I'm wearing a sweater under this.
Dr. Mehmet Oz, thank you very much for the information.
Congrats on your success.
Thank you very much. We love having you here on The Issue Is. Up next here on The Issue Is, more on Super Tuesday, our panel when we come back.